Hello, welcome to another episode of the History Inquirer, inquiring into the past to understand the present. In this episode, we will inquire into the history of the Massachusetts Bay Colony and the conflicts with the Native Americans. I would also like to ask that if you liked the video, please leave a like, and if you didn't like it, please feel free to leave a dislike. If you really liked it and you'd like to see more, then please consider subscribing by clicking the subscribe button down below. It's completely free. I really appreciate it. It helps to grow the channel. It also informs you of when the next video is out, so you don't miss a single one. Also, if you have any tips, tricks, advice, suggestions for new videos, etc., please let me know in the comment section. I'm always looking for ways to improve. So with that all out of the way, pull up a seat, grab a drink, get a snack if you want one, and let us begin. In the early 1600s, England was facing a lot of religious turmoil. There were Roman Catholics on the one hand and Puritans on the other, with the Church of England in between as the dominant religion or denomination. The Puritans, as I said in my last video, were people who followed the teachings of John Calvin and wanted to purify the Church of England from within. They thought that the Church of England was not Protestant enough and were being persecuted for their views. Their solution was to take a voyage across the Atlantic to set up a new colony where they'd be free to worship as they pleased. So in 1628, a group of investors set up the Massachusetts Bay Company, seeking a royal charter to settle in New England. They envisioned a community governed by their religious principles, a city upon a hill that would serve as a moral example for others. This charter, granted in 1629 by King Charles I, the son of King James I, laid the groundwork for their ambitious endeavor. The colonists, however, in a shrewd move, decided to transfer the management of the charter to Massachusetts, and in doing so, created the basis for a political constitution and local government. In March 1630, a fleet of 11 ships carrying nearly 1,000 settlers, led by John Winthrop, departed England for New England. This migration, known as the Great Puritan Migration, marked the beginning of the Massachusetts Bay Colony's establishment. The majority of the colonists were free men and women, and not from the gentry or aristocracy. Unlike the earlier settlers of Plymouth, who faced devastating hardships, the Massachusetts Bay Colony came equipped with better resources and preparation. They came first to Salem, which had been settled earlier, but wasn't big enough and did not have enough food or shelter. They settled first in Charlestown. However, a friend of John Winthrop, William Blackstone, invited them to stay with him on the nearby Shawmut Peninsula. They named their new settlement Boston, after their home in England, and proceeded to establish a thriving community in the face of adversity. They also established trading relationships with the colonists of Plymouth and the various Native American tribes. Many more colonists would soon arrive, and the colony grew and expanded by leaps and bounds. As Bernard Bailyn tells us in his book, The Barbarous Years, and I quote, "Before the decade was out, it had reached more than 11,000 men, women, and children in villages scattered from settlements on the Connecticut River and Long Island to a string of fishing villages stretching north along the Atlantic coast to the mouth of the Kennebec River. End quote. John Winthrop was at the head of the colony and was a man of faith, piety, and resolve. In his famous sermon, A Model on Christian Charity, that he gave on the ship Arbella, he advocated for unity, piety, and a commitment to the greater good. The Massachusetts Bay Colony operated under a unique charter, allowing for self-governance rather than direct oversight from England. Its governing body, the General Court, was composed of free men who held property and adhered to Puritan values. Decisions were made collectively, shaping one of the earliest forms of representative government in America. In 1639, the first post office was established, and public schools were established as well. As I said in my last video, the Puritans and the Puritans both were very intellectual focused. They loved learning. They focused on raising literacy rates. They want everybody to read and write, especially the Bible. And like I said, in 1639, the first post office was established. And in 1690, the first American newspaper was published with the title Publick Occurrences, Foreign and Domestic, which was suppressed by the colonial authorities because it was printed without a license. Now, the next paper, and the first successful one, would be the Boston Newsletter, which would be established in 1704. Now, on a side note, and a bit of a fun fact as well, if any of you have played the popular video game Fallout 4, when you go to Diamond City, you will notice that the newspaper, there's a newspaper there run by Pepper Wright and her sister Nat, and the name of that paper is Publick Occurrences, named after the original Publick Occurrences newspaper founded in 1690. So now you know where the name comes from. Anyways, however, life in the Massachusetts Bay Colony was not all sunshine and rainbows. The harsh New England winters, disease, and lack of food took a toll on the young colony. The colonists persevered, though, and managed to establish themselves. However, they soon faced conflicts both from within and without. A woman by the name of Anne Hutchinson challenged the church's authority by advocating for individual intuition and the interpretation of Scripture. She was banished along with other dissenters, such as one Roger Williams, who would go on to found the colony of Rhode Island, with the town of Providence as its capital. Rhode Island would become a haven of religious tolerance and the first colony to advocate for a separation of church and state. They would also engage in smuggling as well, due to their long coastline and inlets and harbors along there. But that'd be later on. Other dissenters were Thomas Hooker and John Wheelwright, who would go on to establish the colonies of New Hampshire and Connecticut, respectively. As the colony of Massachusetts Bay expanded and grew in number, however, conflict with the natives became inevitable. This would lead to the Pequot War of 1636 and 1638. The war started when two English traders were murdered, apparently by allies of the Pequot Indians. Sir Henry Vane, the governor, sent John Endicott on an expedition to where the traders were killed to demand restitution. When none was offered, the battle was joined and villages were burned. the conflict escalated, with the Pequot attacking the English towns and villages and actually winning the initial engagements. However, in the end, the English and their native allies prevailed, with veterans of the 30 Years' War arriving in the colony to join the colonial militia. The Pequot tribe was eliminated as a threat to the English settlement, most of the survivors fleeing westward or being enslaved by rival tribes, as well as the English, though the Native Americans enslaved more. Another conflict was King Philip's War, which started in 1675 and ended in 1676. King Philip was the son of Massasoit, who had met with the Pilgrims in 1621. The cause of the war was the execution of 3 of Philip's warriors who had been found guilty of killing another Indian. John Sessamon, who had converted to Puritanism, been a student at Harvard and an interpreter and advisor to King Philip. King Philip believed John to be a spy for the colonists and so ordered him to be killed. After this, the colonial settlements of Massachusetts, Connecticut, and Rhode Island were attacked, which prompted a counterattack by the New England militia. The Wampanoag and Narragansett Indians then attacked and burned Providence, Rhode Island. New England forces then proceeded to attack the stronghold of King Philip and succeeded in killing him. Losses were suffered on both sides of the conflict. This would be the last major conflict between the colonists and the Indians until the French and Indian War. While several Indians were captured and enslaved by the English during both the Pequot War and King Philip's War, the majority of the enslaved were taken by other Indian tribes. Several Indians also chose to assimilate into English colonial society. Indian reservations were set up as well, beginning a practice that would continue through the centuries to this day. And by to this day, I mean that Indians are still living on reservations. In 1685, King James II would revoke the charter of Massachusetts Bay Colony, and 2 years later, he would unite all New England into the Dominion of New England. He would appoint Sir Edward Andros as royal governor, who would begin implementing new taxes without the consent of the colonists. Foreshadowing? Maybe. Taxation without representation? I wonder where we've heard that before. Anyways, as a result of the Glorious Revolution of 1688, King James II was deposed in favor of King William of Orange and his wife, Queen Mary. The College of William and Mary is named after them, as well as Williamsburg, Virginia. Meanwhile, in Boston, 1689, 1 year later, a mob went after royal officials and put the old Puritan leadership back in power. In 1691, the colonies of Plymouth and Maine remerged into the province of Massachusetts Bay under a new royal charter which provided for religious tolerance and further brought the colony under the authority of the English crown. This would have repercussions later on in the 1700s, as New Englanders were used to governing themselves and feared losing their identity. They also feared the overreach of government authority by the English crown, which would come to a head in the 1770s. So to conclude, the Massachusetts Bay Colony and New England as a whole was a beacon of hope and determination, but also a reminder of the complexities of human ambition. As people were dedicated to ideals of faith, hard work, and religious freedom. Its legacy, steeped in faith, perseverance, and conflict, continues to resonate today. Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time on the History Inquirer. Thank you.